Hey everybody, it's Whatever Wednesday. I'm Greg, he's Ben, and today we have
Irish whiskey.
whatever.
All right, so we've got an Irish one
Okay.
on the bar. We've only done one Irish whiskey, and that was on St. Patty's Day because we went full cliche that day.
Wow.
So we have this one, which is kind of interesting. This is BAM Redlocks Irish whiskey.
So is this traditional Irish whiskey?
Well, it depends because from what I know of Irish whiskey, you can either have like the single malt or, like a grain, like a cereal mash bill.
Okay.
Grain mash bill.
Yep.
So this one has, I've got the stats here on my phone because it's kind of an interesting, it's not just a standard. So it's 80% maize.
It's triple
Corn.
distilled and a blend of those three distilled.
Yeah, so it's 80% maize, 20% malted barley.
Wow.
So the maize is distilled in column stills, the barley is distilled in copper pot stills.
Wow.
And then it's got four different cask finishes. 8% is matured in sherry casks, 15% virgin oak casks, 2% matured in rye casks, 75% ex-bourbon barrels.
So in many ways, it's 80% corn mash bill. So it's kind of bourbony. It's finished mostly in bourbon used casks. So it should be bourbon-like. And I think maybe I've had this, but I don't remember it at all. So I'm going at this as a new review.
I have had this, but it's been a while, and I have some opinions on what your thoughts are of that it should be sort of bourbony.
But the 20% malted barley is, there's probably bourbons that do that, but that's not super common. And then the port or sherry cask, it'll be a bit unique.
Take a whiff of it. Tell me if you think it's bourbony.
Not getting a lot so far.
So when I went into the store, they were having a free sample of this when I bought this bottle. And it's funny because when I was going into the store, I actually had seen, I think it was, I was watching Whiskey Nerd, Matt and Rose.
Okay.
And I think they were doing, I can't remember what they were talking about. They were talking about like a
apple.
Yeah.
I'm getting the apple from the 20% malted barley is punching above its weight.
Yes. So I think they were talking about Irish whiskey, and they had mentioned that they're not all single malts. There are some, grain mash bill.
Okay.
And I was thinking well, that might be interesting to try one.
Totally.
And the next day I went into the liquor store and they were doing a promotion for this.
Sure.
So they're giving out samples. And I was gonna buy a grain Irish whiskey when I was at the store that day.
I did not know that existed as an option.
And so, I got a little drop there. And so I smelled this at first. They gave me a sample of it. And I immediately said, oh, is this a single malt? It must be.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is 80% corn. And I was like, you've gotta be kidding me. I mean, that just, it smells like a scotch or like a malted Irish.
Yeah.
So getting all those traditional single malt notes, which is interesting. So what would make that? Because this is finished in used bourbon casks, but it's 80% corn. So how is that malted barley dominating so much?
But maybe it's more aromatic, where the corn's not as much so. So anyway,
let's give her the taste here.
This is such a weird whiskey.
It has some of those standard flavors of a single malt.
Yes.
That's dominant. If you handed me this, just like I did in the store, I would assume it's a single malt.
It's a single malt that's been finished in some sort of like a port cask or sherry cask.
But this has, there's a really nice sweetness on the finish.
With a bit of a burn, a nice burn.
Almost a bit of like a
Proof? 80.
it punches above 80 a little bit.
It does.
Almost sort of a vanilla, maybe bordering a little into like a yogurt without the sourness. I don't know, there's some sort of weird sweetness on the back end of it. It's a nice whiskey.
You know what the more I've had of this, I know it's only like 8% rye cask. This, to me, actually drinks like a rye whiskey with
It's
that
like
weird
2%.
vanilla. I know,
Yeah.
but that the sweetness without the sweetness, and I know that's hard to describe.
Yeah.
Well, trust me.
That's another thing. The guy that was the rep for it, I said it's got a nice little kind of a spice to it.
Yeah.
And he said the rye cask really comes out a little more than you would expect it to. Or he said that spice is from the rye cask, which I assume. But yeah, it's only like, what was it, 2% rye cask? Yeah. And it's for the 2% that it is, it definitely shows up.
There's something. I mean, it's
But it's light,
noticeable.
though. It's light. I mean, the whole whiskey is light because it's 80 proof.
It is. It's light. It's also light flavors. Not flavorful, but they're all kind of like floral and very bright.
Yes.
Flavors.
Extremely, yeah.
Crisp apple, cinnamon a bit, light cinnamon, vanilla. So it's really nice flavors. But the one note I'm not getting anything of is bourbon. Traditional bourbon.
Right. I mean, would you ever guess this is a corn mash bill? Like this mash bill wise qualify as a bourbon?
So here's an idea that I've had, and we've talked about this.
Whiskeys, I guess, but
I don't know where the corn's from, and I think, possibly corn from a different area than from Kentucky, Indiana, Iowa, maybe quite different.
Yeah, we've had that on some bourbons that are from different parts of the country.
That Oregon Spirit one, we think they're using their own corn.
It's grain to glass, so they're using their own stuff, so it's got to have some
significantly
effect.
different. Yeah. So maybe they're using corn from, who knows, Europe, or do they grow corn in Ireland? I honestly don't know.
They probably do.
I don't know.
Getting a little more cinnamon on the back end as I'm drinking this, or a little bit sort of that light spice that you were kind of talking about. As far as like an Irish whiskey goes, and this is only like $22 or something, so this isn't like a fancy, and it's not like it's meant to be, but I think it drinks pretty nice actually.
I really like it. It has really nice flavors. They're subtle though, where maybe bourbon's a little bit more in your face with flavors.
Yeah.
This is really subtle.
This at maybe like a 90 proof even?
Yeah.
Would really stand out, I think, a little more.
It's kind of an interesting sipper. If you think bourbon is too spicy, something like this.
Or too sweet in the, like that caramel brown sugar lane.
Yep. This is a little bit more the apple note that we get from single malts, but not too much. Like it's a hint. So I really like this, but it is absolutely a departure from our traditional kind of bourbon profile.
It's almost like a little biscuity sort of bread there a little bit. Just a tad. But yeah, this is not bad. Not bad at all.
I like this a lot.
Yeah.
Where we've had several single malts that I was thinking, okay, I'm done with this. I actually like this.
I could have another pour of that easily.
I have no problem with buying one of these. And
so I probably should have thought of this before we decided to review this, but I don't know what the availability is on this as far as
So it is actually from
regions.
Minneapolis, right?
Well, it's a real Irish whiskey, so it's from Ireland, but the owner, it's the previous owner of Two Gingers.
Oh, okay.
And so this is they
sold
Two Gingers off. Yeah. And he's a prominent kind of like restaurateur in
this area.
In Minneapolis, yeah. And so now this is the new venture from them. And it's good, so yeah, kudos to them.
Yeah.
All right, well, this has been Red Lock's Irish Whiskey on Whatever Wednesday on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben.
I'm Greg. Thanks for watching. Cheers.